Good morning. This morning we have the Las Cruces Public Schools Chief of Operations with us, Steve Rodriguez, joining us this morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Now, we want to talk about some things that are happening in next week's election, and specifically talking about the upcoming school bond and the mill levy. Can you tell us a little bit more overall about what it is and what people really have to know as they head into the election? I know sometimes they see those things and it's like, I don't really know exactly what this means for me or my community or my kids if they have kids in schools.
Sure. Really what the bond and the mill levies are is it's really another funding source from us that we really get to improve our infrastructure, whether it's safety, it's buildings, construction, new property, those different types of things that we don't have that we get from funding from the state. This is from our local property, school property taxes that we get from every one of our voters that comes out there. And the biggest part of this one is that we're not increasing taxes with this vote. So as we do this, it's not an increase to tax, whether it's through the bond or through the mill levy. It's just really a continuation of the commitment that the public and the community of Las Cruces has already made, right? It's continuing that piece by not asking for a tax increase into that part. But I guess the important piece of it is, especially in my role as Chief of Operations, is really the infrastructure. A lot of our buildings are, they're beyond 50 years old. They've reached that age of the part where we're maintaining them, but there are improvements that we need to do to continue to give students opportunities, whether it's technology or it's, we think of safety as not just, whether it's weapon detections or it's different things of safety, but we also have to think about indoor air quality, the IAQ for students, when we're talking about, the air exchanges, the HVAC upgrades, roof upgrades, all these different things are important as far as safety as well, because that really impacts student learning where they're not able to focus because they're, the air needs to be exchanged. So there's a lot of things that really go into the bond as far as us being able to make those big improvements, right? And so really with the mill levy as well into that part, it's important because those are funding dollars that we get to use and be really transparent with the uses of those. That's why we really put out, these are the projects that we have into that part. So
can you kind of break down for us what really is like the main difference between the school bond and the mill levy?
Sure.
That way people can kind of just go into it with a little bit of a better understanding of the difference, but also how you guys can use it too.
Absolutely. So the school bond, really, it's just a set tax rate that they have for the property taxes, right? And with your mill levy, what you're doing, every mill, you're looking at $1 for every 1,000 that you have that you pay into property taxes. So those are the different mills that we have. So for every $1,000 of worth of house, say your house is worth $100,000, you're going to pay $1 for every 1,000 into that part. So that's really the part in that. So again, we're not raising that portion of it. It's going to stay the same. But really, the mill levy, it comes over the time that we're able to use those for, whether it's for safety, it's for cameras, it's for construction, new things like that we can put into those. So they go hand in hand, but they are different parts, but they're still part of the property tax. And again, that's not a raising those taxes into that part. So they're both equally as important because they're both funding sources that we can use for a multitude
schools like you mentioned.
Absolutely.
And one of the schools in specific, Mayfield High School, is one of the ones that you guys are really focusing on. Why focus on Mayfield, and what are some of the things that with these school bonds you're looking to improve for that?
So with Mayfield, I mean, we're looking at a building that was built in the 60s, right? And so with the construction of newer buildings, even with Cruces High, Cruces High was our first school, needed renovations. You look at the renovations that were there, but really focusing on Mayfield now because they do need that piece. Those students also need access to those newer facilities that provide them, functioning bathrooms, all of these types of things that we really need to invest into Mayfield, and we're committed to that. Our superintendent, Mr. Reese, has made a commitment that we're going to see this project through, and we're going to make it a commitment, for the North Valley, but also for the students that go to Mayfield and the future students that go for Mayfield. It's important for them that they have the equal access as well for that piece. So we're really committed to that, into that project, but also just with the construction piece of other things, that this bond and mill levies is not just going to touch just that project. It is, but it's also going to touch all of the schools, whether it's through access control, which will increase our safety and security, through playgrounds, through HVAC and roof. There's going to be a component of everything, and we've worked well with our committees that we've put together, so it wasn't just the district making the responsibilities, but true transparency with our committees of community members that were involved in this. And once the principals selected projects, their asks, they all came to the table with the community, and we really worked together to identify, okay, what are going to be the bond projects? But it's not just about the bond. If your project isn't on the bond, it's okay. That's why we have the mill levy, because the mill levy is going to be able to cover those other projects. And so we'll really look at those. So the bond, you're looking Title IX, you're looking at those different things that we need to improve, because girls sports nowadays is a lot bigger than what it used to be, and our facilities weren't built for that. And so now we need to have that same equal access for our female athletes to have access through those as well. So the mill levy, bond, yes, but if it's not on the bond, mill levy is going to be able to cover a lot of that, where we're prioritizing those projects to make sure they come to completion.
What are some of the projects that I think stand out to you? Obviously, we talked about Mayfield and
Sure.
the improvements that need to happen there, but what are some of the other projects that you think really should have a little bit of a focus that would be made into a reality
Sure.
if these both pass hand in hand?
So one of the important ones is really looking at the completion of our phase 2 and phase 3 of our physical plant department for operations, which is key and integral, right? And when you think of operations, it's not talked about a lot until it's not working. So whether it's not toilets or not working, water's not running. So we're really investing into our Toshiro project for our operations center to complete that, so that we have new facilities for our plumbers, our HVAC, our electricians, all of those different things. And when we think about it, how does that impact schools? It does, because that's what really keeps our schools up and running. Whether it's from clean air, cold air, warm air during the winter time, these different things that we have, that's important. But I think the other part is the Title IX that I was talking about earlier, for our female athletes to have access to, to locker rooms, to the same access that our male athletes have. So we're going to be touching a lot of those, whether it's from bathrooms, locker rooms, changing ones at all the schools, really Oregon Mountain, Cruces, and Mayfield, because those are our older facilities and weren't really built for that. So we're really investing into that with Title IX, but also looking at, our other projects are playground structures for certain schools. We also have shade structures that are going to be there so the kids aren't in the hot sun. There's a lot of different projects that we're touching and we're going. We do have some rollover projects that we're touching on as well, because one thing that we know as a district, when we say we're going to complete it on the bond, we're going to complete it. And we're going to make sure that we do that, because we want to make sure that we're transparent with our voters and our constituents, that when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do that piece. And so we're committed to that, but we're also committed to using the mills and the other parts to complete these other projects as well.
Definitely. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that's just important for people to keep in mind as they go into the election next week?
Yeah, just a reminder, we're not talking about luxury, we're talking about, sustainability with the schools, right? And providing our students with that opportunity. But I think the big thing, again, we're not raising taxes. What we're asking for is just a continued commitment that Las Cruces the community has made over the years, right? They've always stood by us in these bonds and mill levies. They've always looked out and they've gone out and they voted and they've supported us. And we're just looking for a continuation of that, to go out there. You can go out and vote. Make sure you go out. Early voting is happening now. Skip the lines that we have on next Tuesday. A lot of our schools are voting sites. So, come out and vote and just make sure that we have that support. Your students have the support, and know that you're investing not just in students and staff, but you're also invested in our community, because these construction projects, we also use local contractors. And so it really helps our local economy as well.
Yeah, it all comes back eventually. Sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And
sure, thank you.
If you want to watch this community conversation, we'll have this, of course, posted on our website, KFOX TV.com. All you have to do is click on the Community Conversation tab. For now, let's go ahead and send things over